Welcome to another episode of Off the Menu. I'm Vincent Franchini from Tumler House, here with the loquacious Charles Coulombe.
It's kind of the point, isn't it? That I should be...
Yep.
I mean, if you were here with the silent Charles Coulombe, it wouldn't be as interesting
No.
for our audience.
No, not at all.
Just you looking at me and me sitting here clammed up. Yeah, well, all right, never mind. Loquacious is fine.
Okay, good. I'm glad you're okay with it.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good with that.
So, how are you? How was your Holy Week?
Well, it was interesting. It was very interesting. I went to the Chrism Mass for the Chrism Mass at the cathedral. I'll tell you, the shadow of the Religious Ed Congress hung over us, which for those of us who don't know, who aren't fortunate enough to live in LA and environs, the Religious Ed Congress is an annual gathering of people who were allegedly religiously toned education people. And, you know, it's always been renowned for the past couple of decades for being quasi-heretical. But this year, it really took everything to a new high, or low, if you will. It was very gay. It had Father James Martin, the famous Jesuit. One priest speaker called on the religious educators to help second and third graders with their LGBT orientation, which you gotta understand something, ladies and gentlemen. When a priest says something like that, it sounds like an invitation to pedophilia. I'm sorry, but there it is. So, Reverend Fathers, if you want to say something like that, don't. You know? Loose lips sink ships. They also tend to start lawsuits if you're not careful. So that was the bad part. There were a number of people I would have expected to see at the Chrism Mass who were not there. And as I say, the shadow of that thing lay heavy over our heads. That was the unpleasant part.
I have a question relating to that I've been wondering for some time.
Okay.
We have a good Archbishop. Archbishop Gomez is great. How could this happen under his watch? I don't understand.
Well, there are several possible answers, none of which are particularly nice.
Uh-oh.
One thing I could say is that the Religious Ed Congress is a big moneymaker, brings in millions. And nobody shoots Santa Claus. As we say in the Catholic Church, money talks and faith walks. Did I really have to be that crass, ladies and gentlemen? But there are other possibilities. I mean, the internal politics of the Archdiocese are such that...
I mean, he's still outnumbered by the liberals? I mean, can he just...
Well, he could, but it's not the way he did San Antonio, so I doubt he'll do that here. But, I mean, honestly, ladies and gentlemen, it does make our Archbishop look bad, which is a pity, because he's a very fine man.
Because, I mean, I saw the last one that he did. I was watching Church Militant, and I saw him talk with Michael Voris in his ear. And so it's like, and that was last year, which wasn't, I guess, relatively speaking, wasn't as bad as this year.
No, though it was worse than the one before.
Of course.
Yeah, you know, when you're on your way out, when you're way out, going down like this is the way it goes. So if you're here, you're generally further down than when you were here.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Anyway,
but I mean,
you have to ask His Grace. I mean, the said, I'm not the spokesman for the Archdiocese. I have,
okay.
I'm a loyal son of the Archbishop, but I can't pretend to understand or to explain.
Well, you said, okay, well, I guess you're saying you don't have any answers, but to me, it's like, okay, the Religious Education Conference Congress is a big moneymaker. Well, okay, we can still do that, but can we cull the heretical people out? Would that be a possibility? I
would like that to be the case.
I mean, why is that not? Why is that power not available to the Archbishop?
I have no answer for that, and unfortunately, that is an explanation that could only come from the Archbishop.
Okay.
The thing that I find personally painful about the whole thing is that I know what a good individual he is.
Yeah.
Personally, and this makes him look 1,000 kinds of bad. But he's my Archbishop. I'm not in a position to tell him what to do. He doesn't work for me.
Okay.
It's a very tragic position to be in.
Okay.
And I remember the way the Pope slapped him down over Cardinal Mahoney. I'm sure he doesn't want to get slapped down again.
Yeah.
It could be that the Religious Ed Congress has very high level protection. I mean, look at Cardinal.
Yeah.
Look at Cardinal Schönborn, who's close to the Pope in Vienna. He's just come out and said a future council could ordain women. The future council could order all archbishops executed, starting with Schönborn.
It's possible.
It's possible. You never know. Now, the fact that previous popes have made it pretty clear that we're not going to be executing archbishops, we know that that doesn't mean anything. What matters is who has power in the immediate.
Ah.
See, in the immortal words of Mao Zedong, that great theologian who the Chinese Catholics are going to be ordered to accept shortly, political power comes from the barrel of a gun. So if I'm to apply that kind of thinking that they ingested in the 60s to these kinds of people, I would have to hold barrels to their gun, and gun barrels to their heads, rather, and say, your eminence, your elegance, whatever it is, you want to repeat that, or should I pull the trigger? I don't know. I'm verging on, what's the word I want, ladies and gentlemen, incoherent. But the sad truth of the matter is that these are very, very dark times when, in the immortal words of William Butler Yeats, the best I call conviction, and the worst are filled with a furious intensity. To carry his metaphor a little further, what rough beast it may be that's sauntering toward Bethlehem to be born, this I don't know. Gotta keep smiling though, ladies and gentlemen. If you don't smile, you'll cry or you'll get angry. And I assure you, of the three possible reactions to anything, laughter is the healthiest for you. And it also actually doesn't make your opponents feel good either. If you burst into tears, they're happy. Even your hatred makes them happy. But if you point at them and you laugh, look at moron! They don't have quite the same...
They don't have the armor for that.
Not really, no. The devil hates to be laughed at. But anyway, with that joyful thing, I can tell you something else happened this Holy Week.
Yeah, the good thing.
The good thing. And that was both Palm Sunday, Maundy Thursday, Good Friday, and the Saturday Vigil. I was at the pre-1955 Holy Week, which I'd never seen before.
Wow.
Since, several of the FSSP parishes, including this particular one here in LI, were given an indult to do the pre-55. And I have to say, I always followed Dom Guéranger with the Mass. And he's obviously pre-55, writing in the 19th century.
I hope so.
So, yeah, if you do your math, he was in the 19th century. Was that before 1955? I don't get it. Well, okay. Anyway, so I would use his Holy Week book and try to, do the post-55 services.
Yeah. And
it's kind of going back and forth and mixing and matching and this and that. To be able to just sit there and follow was great. It was
nice.
Great. But I suspect if I were a betting man, that in all likelihood, the pre-55 Holy Week ritual will come back. It was interesting because of scheduling, it had to be done at night, the vigil and all that, which, originally, prior to 1955, the Maundy Thursday, Good Friday, and vigil services were all done in the morning. we say, and at night you had tenebrae. Well, because of the fact that they share space with the Nova Soto parish at the moment, they had to do all these things at night, which was the original timing, and it was when that was the only change Dom Guéranger wanted to say, was to have it at night. And the foot washing did not occur, which had been a very nominal thing that very few people did, and was done after the main thing on Maundy Thursday. But it's also very, very popular, I know. It's one of the most popular things about the Holy Week liturgy. So if I were a betting man, I would wager that in 50 or 100 years, we'll have pretty much the pre-1955 services back. But they will be at the original hours.
Okay.
Which is what all Dom Guéranger wanted. And in all likelihood, the optional foot washing will be done at the end of everything else, just because people seem to like it so much. And probably you will not find too many women or non-Christians having their feet done. Pace, the Holy Father.
Okay. We're coming out with a book, The Mass and Its Folklore. John Hobson Matthews?
Yes.
Now, he called that afternoon and night masses a lazy person's mass.
Yeah, well,
what do you think of that?
I think he's right. Why do the guy go to them? I mean, I'm going to be brutally frank, ladies and gentlemen. I am a lazy person. You know, of the 7 deadly sins, the one that has the biggest hold on me is sloth. Now, I don't have any envy, so to make up for it, I got a double dose of sloth, maybe triple. Some extra lust, too. Anger, yeah. But envy, I completely lack. So that's why I get all the sloth instead. Because if you think about it, sloth would tend to take away from your envy. Because you see how much work goes into these people getting their stuff.
Yeah.
And you don't want to do that much work, so you don't envy them.
Okay, that makes perfect sense.
Well, your sloth cancels out the envy. Yeah, I really wish I had that. But gosh, I have to get up and eat every day. No, I'm just as well without it. But seriously, no, it's quite true. The afternoon and at least for me, the afternoon and evening masses are the lazy man's masses, which is why I attend them during the week. I mean, sometimes I can get my carcass out of bed and go to something really early, like 9:30, but it's hard.
Yeah.
And as for 7, 6, see, for all of my young viewers, and I know a lot of you out there are young, one of the things I love about your generation is that finally, after 57 years, I have found a generation who has the same work ethic I have. You know, before 10:30, don't ask me.
That's us.
Yeah, and I resonate to that.
Yeah.
Back in the days when I had to hold down a job, before I started writing, getting in it.
Are you trying to say 8?
That word. I had trouble with that in school. The thing that made me happiest when I got out of high school was the fact that I wouldn't have to show up at class at 8 o'clock.
I agree with that.
So I went to a military college and I had to get up at 5:30.
I didn't pick no morning classes in college.
Nope.
I ain't no fool.
No, morning classes are strictly for sissies.
Yeah.
That's right, and internet trollers. That's why they have such annoying personalities, because they're up at 6, just ready to rip up whatever they see on the internet, because they're mad as hell. They're not going to take it anymore. My advice: sleep until 11 noon. You'll feel much better.
Wow.
Go to bed at 5. I don't mean a.m.
Wow.
No, I think if internet trolls would get up at noon and go to bed at 5 p.m. and limit their conscious time to doing what they absolutely have to do, the world would be a happier place.
That's very true.
Yeah, that's it. So if you're an internet troll, consider that plan.
Okay.
What do we got?
Before we start the show, we have one of the comments that I just, we couldn't resist. We have to ask this, talk about this on the show. On the video you did on the alt-right and white nationalism.
Ah, yes.
A person with the username Pine Tree says, "What a convoluted response from Coulombe. The alt-right is a Jewish movement. There are no political groups that aren't run by Jews.
Did you hear that, alt-righters?
Little did you know.
Sure, why not? You know, I've been blaming the Jews for my personal failings for years. You know, I just said it was thoughtful. You know why I can't get up before 7 o'clock to save my life? It's the Jews.
Of course.
You know, you know why I don't like tomatoes?
Why?
The Jews. You know why I'm sort of pompous and go on and on chattering?
Why?
The Jews. They made me this way.
Unbelievable.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. It's all over. I really don't have a response to that. Except that if it makes you feel better to feel that way, you go right ahead. Well, the thing is that people do want an easy explanation for the terminally complicated, mixed up stew of garbage.
Oh, right.
That we find ourselves served up on a regular basis. And it's easy to latch on to something. You know, it's the Jews, it's the Masons, it's this, it's that. And that makes life simple. It's a little bit, in a sense, it's a bit like cinemacantism.
You know, that's funny. I remember you said this in one of the really old episodes, and the line stuck with me. You specifically said that people will gravitate to the Jews, Masons, you even say lizard people.
Them too, no, I don't want to leave them out.
Yeah,
they might get me.
But you say this happens when people discover that they're not actually in control in a democracy, that there are the powers that be are in control, and that everything is a facade.
Yeah, and that nobody cares what they think.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the, obviously I've had my power taken from me and someone's responsible.
Yeah. Or
the immortal words of Planet 9 from Outer Space. One thing is certain, someone's responsible. Dun, dun, dun. Well, no, ladies and gentlemen. It's just the way it is. Do you not have a lot of money? You don't have a lot of influence. That's it. If you want power, have money. If you don't mind not having money, then don't be too upset that you don't have any power either. The old joke, you know, the golden rule. Him that has the gold makes the rules.
But what about like Cool Hand Luke, right? Like the endless energy of the human spirit. It cannot be contained. Right?
I'm sorry,
That's
what
power.
were you saying?
That's power.
Yeah, well, actually, it is, in a sense. You know, it's the human spirit that will occasionally, not after Hurricane Katrina, but other disasters, will occasionally come to the fore in acts of heroism. So, yeah, that's quite true. One of the, I don't know if you read Dean Koontz, but one of the never-ending themes of Dean Koontz's various heroes is, you know, they're always pitted against some vast conspiracy, but they're helped along the way by simple, ordinary, decent people. And that really does happen. You know, you find yourself alone. You've been mugged. You know, you don't know what to do, and suddenly some random person comes up, offers to give you some help. It doesn't expect anything, doesn't want anything, and they go their way and you go yours. Absolutely, absolutely. And that aspect of the human condition, ladies and gentlemen, is its most divine. That is its most wonderful. But in terms of the political setup, let's just say the more they pretend that you mean something, the less you do. I'll give you a concrete example that's sort of on my mind these days, and I'll take it from England. You bet. Prior to 1835, every English city or town operated under one or another medieval charter. And these charters were wildly different in their makeup. But basically, every town was run by a small oligarchy that was self-perpetuating. It could be the guildsman. Well, how do you get the guild? Well, you're voted to the guild by the people of the guild. That's how you get in the guild. And you can't vote for the mayor unless you're in the guild. To this day, the city of London, the little square mile in the center of the city, of the big city,
Mm-hmm.
is still run that way. It's the only town in all of England that's still run according to its medieval charter. So that they control the entire life of the city.
The mayor of London is controlled by
The Lord Mayor.
The Lord Mayor, excuse me, is controlled by this guild.
Guilds, plural.
Guilds, plural. Oh,
Yeah, there are
wow.
a bunch of them. They're called the livery companies.
Wow, that's
And
pretty cool.
They elect from their own number the Lord Mayor.
Wow.
And if you're not a freeman of the City of London and a member of the guild, you have no vote. And it's a pretty restrictive thing. Every town in England was like that up until 1835. So if you were not part of that magic circle, you just took whatever you were given. And those in City Hall ran the show. Now, the other side of it, though, was that you knew that the power sat in the guild hall or the mansion house or whatever they called the center of things in that particular town. You knew where they were. You weren't part of it. But if you had to get a mob together or you had to go beg or however you were going to deal with your needs, you knew where to go. So, and they also knew that if they pushed too far, too much, they'd have a riot on their hands. And that wouldn't be much fun either. So there was a strange, very imperfect relationship, but there it was. So, okay, so starting in 1835, these outside the City of London, they had a municipal act which began breaking up these sorts of things and brought in popularly elected town councils and mayors. But what happened over the following decades, down to the present, the 1970s, was that more and more responsibilities were taken away from city government and put in the hands of the UK government in London. So in other words, before you couldn't vote, but the town or city pretty much ran its own affairs.
Yeah.
Now you can vote, but they have over there very little control over anything.
Yeah.
So you see, everybody can vote.
Yeah, but it's meaningless.
You can vote. You couldn't vote before. See, now you can.
I see. I see what you're getting at.
Yeah. So, you know, if you turn around and say, "Isn't this great?" You know, what was never going to happen was a city with complete control over its own affairs, as they used to have, was going to be open to everybody's vote. That was never going to be on the menu, ever. Never, never, never. The power, if you and I are allowed any say in a matter, be assured the real decision is being made somewhere else.
Oh, that's so cynical.
No, it's accepting.
That's very noir.
I don't see that there's anything wrong with it. It's the way life is. I mean, I'll put this another way. When you're a child, how much control do you have over your parents' decisions?
Well, it depends how much you want to cry and scream about it.
Yeah. You and they have a certain relationship. And you're right, you choose your battles, and then you yell and scream. You know, you hold your breath till you'll turn blue. And if they get annoyed with you, they'll spank you. And that's very much the dynamic between ourselves and our masters.
Oh, wow. I like that metaphor.
Yeah. We decide we're really excited about this particular issue, and we hold our breath, and we have a demonstration or riot or whatever, and they either go along with us or they spank us. And when they spank us, it hurts.
Wow. I love that metaphor. That's great.
Or they ignore us, which very often the parents would do. Just let them cry themselves out. Kind of the way the political parties treat the pro-life movement.
Boy, ain't that the truth.
Let them have their little march for life, and then they'll get tired and go home.
It works?
It does work. It works beautifully. And don't get me wrong, I'm all for the March for Life because it keeps the flag flying, but that's not my point.
Yeah.
My point is that they don't care. You know, and you can have millions more in every March for Life than their favorite causes ever bring out. And it won't matter. Because their favorite causes are their favorite causes.
Yeah.
You see, it's not that, I don't know, depending on the favorite cause of the day, the Million Vegetable March on Washington. arguing for salad rights and all that, which is the kind of thing our owners would be in favor of.
Mm-hmm.
That gets all the publicity, and everyone's jumping up and down about it. And there are like, 800 people in attendance for the Million Vegetable March. We have 2 million at present for the March for Life, and no one notices. Why is that? Well, it's because our owners already know what they favor, and it's not pro-life.
Ah.
See? So in other words, it's not that the magnitude influences them, it's that they decide which group counts.
It's not simply the corrupt liberal media?
No. Partly, because the corrupt liberal media, not unlike the corrupt conservative media, decides what it's going to
Oh, how dare you.
I know. But I just saw the funniest thing, the Sinclair company, who have just bought like 500 TV stations around the country. There's a very funny thing online. The fellow had them mouthing word for word the same script, which came out from Sinclair headquarters. It was very funny. And the irony is at the end it has them all saying, the danger to our democracy, the danger to our democracy, the danger to our democracy. Oh, it was fun stuff.
How many times though? Like what? 50 times? Like what?
Well, more like 10. They didn't want to bore you.
Oh, yeah.
But that one section they had something like 50 or 60 mouthing the same paragraph. It was funny.
Wow. So that's how you get on television. You just
Be bought by the right.
Just be bought.
Be bought by the right person.
Here's your script. Well, are you willing to say this? Yes or no? Yes. Okay. Good. You go on television.
Yeah, and I would say from the bottom of my heart to my masters.
No, you don't. That's why you're here on Off the Menu.
Oh, that's right. I knew that. That's great. Well, we've wandered a long way from the Jews, but that's okay. Just remember, ladies and gentlemen, if you feel like you have no control over the political process, that could be because you don't. And you won't. What's important is not you or me having control. What's important is who does and how they exercise it. But you and I, ladies and gentlemen, not even in the most utopian situation you can imagine, will ever really have a voice of the kind that we were taught we do have. We were taught a myth. It's no different than if we had grown up believing that there are unicorns, herds of them, wandering the Angeles National Forest. Then you get up there and there aren't any. Who murdered all the, who destroyed all the unicorns in the Angeles National Forest? The Jews are responsible. The Jews rounded up the unicorns in mass hunts. And that's why there are no unicorns in the Angeles National Forest. But the alternative to that theory is even worse.
What's the alternative?
That there never had been any.
I don't want to believe that.
No, so obviously it was the Jews who took them away, shot them all. That's what happened. They had these big roundups.
I know, I'm sure it was horrible.
It was terrible. Why do you think the Southern California unicorn's extinct? Have you ever seen one? No, I didn't think so. It's up there with the Tasmanian tiger, the Japanese wolf.
Wow, so that explains it.
Yes. Do you realize that by 1973, there had not been a single sighting of a unicorn in the Angeles National Forest for over 25 years?
I had no idea.
Yes, that's how far back the problem goes. Are we done?
Yeah, we did. I hope so.
All right, let's go on.
Okay, before we get started, don't forget to buy books from us at tumblrhouse.com. We have over 600 different books in our store, and free shipping on orders over $25. And we definitely need your financial support on. So, buy books.
Buy lots of books.
Buy lots of books.
Buy one if you like one. Buy one for each and every one of your friends and family.
That's a ticket.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get started. Boy, that was the longest introduction we've ever done, I think. But boy, that was fun.
Yeah, wasn't it? Gosh. Yeah, you're up to the Angeles National Forest, up to the Nuka Branch, and Nuka Branch will be the base camp, and we'll go out in extending circles to see if we can find them.
Wow. Okay, first question is from Ian. Hello, Mr. Coulombe.
Hello.
What are your thoughts on the theologian Francisco Suarez? Recently read the Catholic Encyclopedia's article about him and his influence in Catholic theology, and I'm a bit curious about why he isn't as well known as St. Thomas Aquinas or St. Augustine. Is it because his works aren't as accessible as Thomas's or Augustine's? Or did he hold any positions that the Church has distanced itself from?
No, I mean, for starters, Suarez was simply not nearly as great a theologian as either St. Augustine or St. Thomas Aquinas, or as great a philosopher. What he was, however, was a synthesizer. And he came up with a sort of Suarezian Thomism of his own, which for a long time was the official Thomism of the Jesuits, because Suarez was a Jesuit. They were the ones who embraced him. And as you know, starting in the 50s, they began to dub him and replace him with people like Teilhard de Chardin and, of course, Coronation. So basically, the Jesuits were responsible for his popularity, and they're also responsible for his diminution.
Wow, so are you saying he's sort of a precursor to Desjardins?
No.
He has nothing to do with it.
He has nothing to do with it, except that he was the preferred theologian of the Jesuits for several hundred years.
Okay, so that's why he was influential.
That's why he was influential. He came entirely from his position with the Jesuits.
Ah.
And when the Jesuits, wandered off into strange fields, probably chasing unicorns in the Angeles forest, they went into those other fields and found themselves Colorado and Teilhard. And then they dumped Suarez.
Well, dare I ask, do you feel he was a good influence or a bad influence?
I'm not overly fond of him. I think he was more Aristotelian than St. Thomas was. He certainly was a great proponent of baptism of desire. So I'm not really a big fan. But, it was better than Coronation or Teilhard de Chardin.
Well, okay. At least there's that.
Yeah.
Next question is from Tyler Doty. Charles, what do you think of Charlemagne's coronation as emperor? Was it legitimate? Did the Pope have that power? Yes, he can depose kings, but what about the Byzantine Empire? The idea at the time was for one emperor, the Holy Roman Empire by Viscount James Bryce. To me, it would be like the Pope saying Italy was the United States. Can you clarify? Thanks, and I enjoy the Star-Spangled Crown.
Yay! Well, firstly, thank you for enjoying the Star-Spangled Crown. May your tribe increase.
By the way, if you haven't bought this book yet and you're a fan of Charles, boy, are you missing out. Yeah, this is a must-read. This is turning into a classic pretty quickly.
You know what Gary Potter told me about it?
What?
If I died tomorrow, if you, meaning me, died tomorrow, he said, that's the book you'd be remembered for.
Wow.
But that was before my real book came out, so I don't know.
No, I would agree with Gary Potter on that.
And my forthcoming history of unicorns in the Angeles forest.
Oh, no.
But anyway, well, to answer your question, yes, I believe that the coronation of Charlemagne was legitimate. Yes, the Pope had that power. Now, mind you, the Pope did not essay to abolish the Byzantine Empire, but to restore the empire in the West. Now, this was absolutely necessary. Why was it absolutely necessary, you ask? Well, I'll tell you. It is because the Byzantine emperors, in return for various privileges, had acted since the time of Justinian as the protector of the papacy. But now, for various reasons, not least the Muslim invasion of the Near East, which kind of took up a lot of the Byzantine time and interest, they were no longer able to adequately defend the Holy See. The Franks, for the past 50 or 60 years, had done precisely that job. So, what made more sense than to reward the king of these same Franks with the imperial title? Now, there was talk at the time, interesting enough, of marrying Charlemagne to the Empress Irene, who was the Empress, the Byzantine Empress, etc. And down through the years, there were ideas like when Otto the Second, the Emperor Otto II of the West, married the Empress, she became Empress because she married him, the Princess Theophano, who was a Byzantine princess. There were various schemes here and there for uniting the Byzantine and Holy Roman Empires, and for very many reasons these didn't come about. But in terms of my personal opinion, yeah, the Pope certainly had the right to revive the empire in the West. He would not have had the right to abolish the empire in the East, but he didn't try to.
Okay, what do you make of Tyler's metaphor where he says it's like the Pope saying Italy is part of the United States? Is that
I don't see that at all.
It's not like that. That's a false equivalent.
No, a better equivalent would be if the United States had dwindled down to the eastern seaboard and a pope declared that in reward for all of his labors, a local post-Mexican chief was to be given the title of President of these Western United States. And the claim was that the Western United States are in succession to the original United States, just as the little strip of land on the East Coast is.
I see. Okay.
Now, the fact that the new president for life is Mexican and speaks very little English, although English is kept as a sort of court language, reflecting the American heritage.
Okay.
That would seem odd, but that would be a similar.
That's an interesting metaphor. Okay.
Well, Americans hate to think of the fact that we might be replaced, but when you don't have kids, that usually happens.
Whoa.
No. If you stop breeding, you die. That's what happens. If you don't have any children, you ain't gonna have no grandchildren.
Well, that goes without saying.
Apparently not. People get all confused about it. Why am I alone? Well, you didn't have any kids. Oh, I knew that.
Okay, next question is from Justin Weaver.
Not Justin Bieber.
No, Justin Weaver.
Justin Weaver.
What is the traditional perspective on St. Joseph's age? I remember reading somewhere that he was already an older, less virile man when he took Mary as his wife. But I have also seen people say that he was a young man who did not have sexual desires due to being pre-sanctified. Does the church have an official stance?
The answer is no, it doesn't. And frankly, I've heard both. The tradition that he was an old man, and the tradition that he was young, and the tradition that he was middle-aged. But the church hasn't chosen any of them for belief, so you're free to believe which of the three you care to. And I have no opinion.
Anne Catherine Emmerich, who I always cite, and I always have to put the disclaimer, Anne Catherine Emmerich is not gospel. But she says that St. Joseph was 40, and that the Blessed Virgin was 13. Which is kind of fascinating because that marriage would be illegal in these United States.
Yeah, well, I mean, if they had their druthers, so would Christianity in general. But the other thing you got to bear in mind is that 40 in those days was very old, because life expectancy was 50.
That's true.
So, as is so often the case with these things, when you examine them closely, they may not be quite as disparate as they appear to be. Because he might have looked young to us and old to them.
Oh, right.
So, but I don't know.
Okay. Next question is from Sam Handy. What is Charles's opinion on Falangism? It seems like one of many legitimate alternatives to the capitalist-communist dichotomy that we are stuck with today. But I can't find much else on it, other than it has had support in Catholic countries like Spain, Poland, and Lebanon.
Well, firstly, the Phalange, as it's pronounced.
Okay, yeah, sorry, I know my pronunciation of French, it's probably on par with your pronunciation of Italian words.
Or Slovak.
Phalange.
Very good. Would you name your daughter Phalange?
No.
I wouldn't. Well, basically, just to give you a little context, ladies and gentlemen, the Falange was a movement founded in the 20s, 30s, the 20th century in Spain. The reason why you don't see much on it, even though there is a lot on it, is probably because of your lack of Spanish. So my advice is put in Falange or Falangismo into the Google, and make sure you have your Google Translate ready to work for it if you don't read Spanish. It was akin in many ways to the views of l'Action Française in France. It had a positivist background to it. It valued Catholicism as one of the building blocks of Spain, which, as I've said before, was the problem of Maurras in France. And with the Slavophils about Russia, the idea that your religion is important because it gives the spirit and help form your country. Whereas the truth of the matter is that your country is important to the degree that it reflects the faith.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a thing that very often Catholic nationalists, Catholics get wrong. And it's an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
But anyway, that having been said, the Falange was one of the three factions, major factions, that united behind Francisco Franco in the Spanish Civil War. And so they played a very important role in that fight.
So they were fascists. I couldn't resist. I'm sorry. I just had to. I mean, it was just sitting right there for the taking.
Everybody is a fascist. Doesn't matter who you are. Whether you're communist or socialist or capitalist or Greek. You're fascist, and that is how I speak.
A nice little jingle.
I made it up right this second.
That was pretty nifty.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, feel free to sing it wherever you like. Everybody's a fascist. You know, did you see Team America? It was a sort of puppet thing.
Yeah, by the makers of South Park.
Yeah. Well, they had a similar song, Everyone's Got AIDS. Yeah,
I remember that vaguely.
Yeah, well, everybody's a fascist.
Yeah.
Everybody, except my masters. They're good. Please don't hit me anyway. Anyway.
Sorry for derailing you. The Falange,
yeah,
one of three, supported Franco.
Right. The others were the Carlists, who were the supporters of the older line of the House of Bourbon, and the Alfonsinos, who supported the younger line of the House of Bourbon. And these three groups, together with some foreign aid, saved Spain from the communists. So what do I think of them? Well, I've given you my downside of them. The pro side is that they helped save Spain from communism. And they were certainly a lot better than most of their critics. I say most, not all.
Okay. Next question is from Nate.
Hi, Nate.
What does Charles think of the religious and mythical themes in Star Wars? Some of them seem pantheistic, but at the same time, George Lucas managed to tell a good traditional Arthurian tale in space, at least in the original trilogy. I am somewhat notorious for equating the Force with my approach to the Catholic faith. Please don't mention the new films, it will cause massive trolling.
Well, we can't have that. Gosh. Well, before we do the religious theme, I think the musical theme has to be touched on.
Okay.
Da, 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 da.
Yeah.
Well, that was cannibalized by the composer from his Born Free. Born free as the wind blows.
Oh, wow.
As free as the grass grows. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
It's the same
yeah.
composer?
Yeah.
Wow.
But he sped it up. And I remember when my family, my brother and my mother, my father and myself, went to go see Star Wars, opening day, 1977, Grauman's Chinese Theater, in Hollywood, California. I said to my dad, that sounds vaguely familiar. I've heard that, I think. And Dad whispered in my ear, born free as the wind grows, as free as the grass grows.
Gosh, I'm going to have to listen to those, because I know that other song. I've never connected them.
Now you know.
Wow.
So there's a little bit of a connection there with something else.
Okay.
Born free as a Jedi, as free as the night sky.
So,
That's how it goes.
so what do you think about the religious and mythical themes?
No, I enjoyed them. I mean, again, we'll deal only with the trilogy, the first three, which were great. I mean, they were tremendous entertainments. Philosophically, they were very much based upon Joseph Campbell's Hero with a Thousand Faces. And I think in an earlier episode, I've talked about how really Campbell had it the wrong end of the telescope.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, Christ is not one of the 30,000 heroes archetype. The 30,000 heroes archetype is a reflection of Christ.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to the degree that Lucas was a follower of Campbell, to that degree it was wrong. That having been said, it's a marvelous entertainment. And my late father, who as I mentioned came with me, he adored it.
Mm-hmm.
All three. He just had a great time because he said it's like our Saturday morning serials, like Flash Gordon or Buck Rogers would have been, had they had the technology that we have. They would have had amazing production values. It would have been incredible. And this is what the man has done, said he to me. And I agree with that.
After we watched, well, we said we wouldn't talk about it, but when I was in high school, we watched the first night, episode 3, and I got in a huge discussion with my high school buddies about it. And I don't know if they cited directly George Lucas, but there seemed to be talk that it was a political metaphor, that, at least episodes 1 through 3, that the Empire are the fascists, Jedi are the communists, and that, see, because when Luke Skywalker wins at the end, it's not the good side, it's not the Jedi who win, it's the balance to the Force. And so my friends at least seem to suggest that politically that means like, so what's the balance between communism, fascism, republic? So like that's the, so you know, I mean, it's all, I'm not impressed with that, but that's...
Well, I mean, there's certainly the old republic and all that kind of stuff. He was certainly playing upon the American thing.
Yeah.
The rebels were, I mean, the rebels against authority are an important archetype in the American mind. It makes up for the fact that we're such total conformists.
Yeah.
I mean, what I found interesting, though, was that you notice that the Rebel Alliance was made up of various kinds of governments, including royalty.
Ah, yes.
Princess Leia, you know, Alderaan was not a republic.
Yeah.
So it was also blown to bits.
One interesting thing that I think a lot of people don't know about Star Wars is, you know, each side, the Jedis and then the Siths, they have a legacy of succession. And one of the aspects of the Sith side is you have a master apprentice relationship. And the way the Siths get strong, the way they stay strong and get stronger, is the apprentice kills the master. Because he just gets stronger, and he ends up, it ends up being a power battle, this and that. And so it's interesting because finally, when the Force is balanced, the same thing happens. It follows that template. The apprentice kills the master, but it was for entirely sacrificial reasons, self-sacrificial for his son. I just thought that was a neat little thing at tying it all together.
Yeah, I mean, you know, they certainly had a lot of symbolism that it wasn't. Well, there are two kinds of sword and sorcery type shows you can do.
Uh-huh.
Those that are symbolic and those that are simply way cool.
Okay.
So, I mean, you wouldn't approach World of Warcraft, for instance, seeking deep symbolism.
That's true.
Although the Blood Elves I've always wondered about.
Really? What about the Blood Elves?
If Taylor Swift would have been a good one.
Oh.
Taylor Swift as a Blood Elf.
She looks like a Blood Elf. She's definitely looks like a Blood Elf. So yeah.
All right, Taylor Swift, Blood Elf. You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are any of the pandas and that thing corrupted Blood Elf type things?
I don't know. I'm not. I wasn't there for the Mists of Pandaria expansion.
Ah, all right. Well, never mind. Okay, let's move on.
You just wanted to name drop that, did you? Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Pandaria,
Yeah.
which has got to be one of the silliest. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I don't play World of Warcraft, ladies and gentlemen, just so you know.
Everyone was fascinated about your Red Dead Redemption comment a long time ago.
No.
With the zombies.
Do the zombies.
They're like, oh, does he play Red Dead Redemption?
I don't play Red Dead Redemption. Ladies and gentlemen, I come equipped with 10 nephews and nieces, of whom the oldest is 36, the youngest is 14. I can no more escape this stuff than they could escape their grandfather's Glenn Miller.
Okay.
No, when you got people,
Yeah.
you just can't.
Yeah.
And or my brother had the kids, although they played these games, they also watched a ton of noir films. And my brother was beaming when my niece Florette said to her brother Albert, who was harassing her, trying to tickle her, and she says, "Get your mitts off me, you big lug." And my brother just beamed.
It's very noir.
Yeah, isn't it?
How old was she when she said that?
It was like 6 or 7.
Oh, man. Wow.
Get your mitts off me, you big lug.
Should a 6-year-old kid be watching noir?
We're cool. I did.
Wow.
My brother did.
Okay.
What's wrong with noir?
It's very cynical.
It helps chill. Cynical?
The world is so ugly, and everybody's lying and cheating and
Not everybody, only the successful ones.
Who's successful in noir? Everyone usually gets it. What's coming to them?
Not everybody. Some of the innocents are slaughtered.
No, don't get me wrong. I love noir, but for a 6-year-old, like, what the?
Oh, I thought it was wonderful. I remember when I was a kid watching the Blue Dahlia when I was little, and I thought all I could think of was that Veronica Lake was the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen.
I don't know that one.
Nah, well, never mind.
No. Okay.
You know what happens when I get into my anecdotage.
What's your favorite noir movie?
Wow. Well, probably either the Blue Dahlia or This Gun for Hire.
Oh man, I feel bad. I don't know either of those. Okay. Wow. Let's see here. Okay, next question's from Youssef. I'm a recent convert to Catholicism, and I'm thinking about becoming clergy. Can you please address what the Pope said about hell not existing? Because I'm kind of freaking out.
Well, if you were here earlier in this broadcast, you saw so are we. But, well, there are several of these right at once. Firstly, he has talked about hell at length in the past, a number of occasions, which is one of the most refreshing things ever to hear from him.
Oh, really? Okay.
Because priests don't talk about hell. This stuff that we're going on with today, I don't know how true it is. And whether it's true or not, it doesn't matter. I mean, we're at this place now where if the Pope, says, buy me a rosé and a half a flank steak, the world's in excitement about it. Ladies and gentlemen, the Pope has only one reason to exist, and that's to uphold the faith. If he doesn't, he's like a crooked cop. He's like a bad priest, a politician on the take. I mean, none of these people are perfect, but some are downright horrible. We were very fortunate for a long time because we had a lot of decent popes. The last Julius III we had was Julius III in the 1550s. And this guy more and more reminds me of the pontificate of Julius III. But don't let it get you down, ladies and gentlemen. His problems, let's put it this way. When a pope tells the truth and upholds the faith, he speaks to the whole world. When he lies, it's only from his own little mouth, and it's only for him and his own soul, wherever it may end up. So,
The one thing I always tell myself to not be frustrated by any of these shenanigans is, it doesn't impact me.
no.
I have access to, good masses, and it doesn't impact my liturgical life one iota. Uh-oh.
Rather, Yusuf, rather than listening to this, read this. Dom Guéranger, The Liturgical Year. Or read Dom Marmion, Christ and His Mysteries. Or, gosh, St. Augustine's City of God. Make sure you know the four creeds. This man is going to be gone in the not too distant future. And then we'll have a whole new setup. We may have a better pope, we may have a worse pope, who knows? We had 100 years of the pornocracy. And I don't think anybody is going to stand up for the popes of the pornocracy. I really don't. It's not like Alexander VI, where you've got two sides, two sets of historians, and you would think they were talking about a totally different person. Nobody pretends that the pornocracy was anything but a century of horror for the church. Nobody says that. And no one's going to just, John the XII was misunderstood. He was a real romantic. That's why he died in his mistress's arms. That's not happening. All right? So, Yusuf, the faith exists independently from the mouth of the Pope. The church is not the mystical body of the Pope. It is the mystical body of Christ. Now, if Christ is calling you to be one of his priests, if he truly wants you on his altar, bringing him down every day from the heavens, then you have to follow that. Now, how you follow that is a whole other bottle of wax. But do not let the peccadillos of the Holy Father or any other clergyman knock you off that trail, because if that's what God has made you for, it's the only thing that'll make you happy. And the poor Holy Father, and I do say poor, is a product of his time, and his time was a very garbagey time. I remember it well. I remember the year he was ordained, like it was yesterday, because I turned 9 in that year, 1969. Garbage in, garbage out, But you'll outlast him. And when you're my age, we'll have a hard time remembering what his name was. So,
Wow.
I pray what his late name was. You'll remember Pope Francis, but you won't remember Jorge Bergoglio.
Oh, right.
I do pray. I don't pray for an early demise for Holy Father, but I do pray that Benedict XVI lives to see Pope Francis's successor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Our last question for today is from Christopher Dittmar.
Okay.
I was wondering if Mr. Coulombe had any advice he could give to Catholics aspiring to be historians.
Run while you still can. No?
You should be encouraging them.
Oh, all right, encouraging. Yeah, go to bed early, get up late. No, what you want to do, first and foremost, there are a couple of books you really need to read. A long series, in fact. The first is called The History of the Church by Poulet-Reimers. That's not two first names and two last names. Being Reimers being the translator of a 2-volume book on church history by Poulet. It's a very, very good short introduction to the history of the church. Then you want to read...
How do you spell that name?
Poulet-Reimers, P-O-U-L-E-T.
Okay.
Reimers is R-A-E-M-E-R-S.
Okay, just for the,
For the...
audience.
Yeah, for the non-francophones among us.
Yes.
Of whom there may be a few.
Yeah.
The second is about an 8 or 9 volume set, like Yay, called Mouret Thompson. Same deal. A Frenchman called Mouret, M-O-U-R-R-E-T, translated by a man called Thompson.
Okay.
So read those two, and then read Father Reuben Parsons, S.J. Again, several volumes called Episodes in Church History, I think it's called, or Chapters in Church History. Anyway, it's by Reuben Parsons. Read those, and that will give you a very good foundation. But only a foundation, because then you've got to start reading your eyes out. There's so much.
Yeah, I mean, in your house, it's like, begging your pardon, but it's like, you know, you have to carve paths through the books. And I don't say that in a derogatory way. I say that as a proud way, because to me, the amount of books a person has, you can always tell how intelligent and how interesting a person is by how many books they have in their house. If they have no books,
they're pretty dull people.
They're pretty dull people.
Well,
I'm sorry if offended anyone who's got no books. But
I feel microaggressions.
I'm sorry.
Well, you know, my dad used to have a saying. He said, you know the differences between Bohemia and squalor?
What?
Books.
What?
Well, you know, you go to this rundown, dumpy apartment, right? But there are books everywhere.
Yeah.
That's a Bohemian.
Ah.
You go to the same apartment, same rat hole tenement, everything the same, except there are no books. Squalor.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. So it's up to you, ladies and gentlemen, to decide whether or not you're going to live in Bohemia or squalor. Your call.
Okay. So is that it? Is that it? All the advice?
Well, yeah, I mean, read from there. We have a ton of lists of books at Tumblr House. And I think you're going to be putting out sort of a master reading list for me at some point or other.
Well, you know, I tried to do it, but I kind of had a problem because a lot of the books that you recommended are out of print now.
Yeah, but you know, it's funny how many of the out-of-print books are online.
That's true. Okay, well, I'll just put it out there and let the people...
Yeah, they can find it for themselves. They're big boys.
Okay.
You know, they're used to being smacked around by their masters. We shouldn't.
That's true.
Although, I wonder how many of these fine people would be willing to go to the Angeles National Forest and look for unicorns.
Yeah, how many? I wonder.
I don't know. But if you're one of those proud people, you let us know right here at Tumble House. Also, by the way, I didn't want to mention anything, but are you ready for this?
Yes.
The human relations chicks.
Uh-huh.
The girl, or not human relations, human resources.
Yeah.
Yeah, the human resources chicks, they want you to know that you won the Easter pool.
Oh, yeah? What do I win?
You got a ham.
A ham?
An Easter ham.
Well, okay, we already had the ham, but I could use another ham.
All right, that's good. You'll like this one. It's honey baked.
Honey baked. Honey baked's good.
Yeah. Anyway, that, what's her name, Deborah, was particularly wanted you to know that she'd written her phone number on the ham. Not on the meat itself, but on the wrapper.
Wow. Well, I don't think my girlfriend's going to be too pleased at that.
All right, well, I'll tell Deborah you're taking.
Yeah.
You'd think she'd already know that, though, being in human resources. They're supposed to know everything about everything.
That's true.
Yeah. She knew my shoe size. Anyway, well, that, I guess, as the sun sets on another day here in Booga Booga.
Yeah, that'll do it for this episode. Remember, buy books from TumblrHouse.com. And remember, if it's Monday, it's off the menu. We'll see you next time.
God bless, be good. And to all you trolls out there, remember, current studies show you had reading troubles as children.